just recently, I think this was on Tuesday of this week, you're at $4,800 in a day. So far this week, it looks like you've written $6,237 in AP. And I'm looking here on lead spend. There's only $395 this week on leads so far, which is just freaking awesome.
After being around people that know what they're doing with lead generation, the volume is just greater, and it's a noticeable difference. If you keep your activity consistent and then all of a sudden the volume is there as well, you're going to do better even if you're not meaning to.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I got here Bret, who wrote $4,800 in annual premium in just one single day. Wanted to bring him on the channel to basically break down what he's doing, his telesales process, and his experience in the program so far. Bret, how's it going, man?
Things are going well.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Well, for those of the people watching here at home that don't know you, can you just give a brief background on yourself, how long you've been in the industry, and just kind of a quick synopsis?
Sure. Yeah, I've been in the industry since 2020, right at the beginning of COVID.
You didn't start face to face, did you?
I did. So I came from a captive agency, became independent in July of 2020, running all business in person. I honestly looked like I was probably walking into a hazmat site with all the the protective stuff that we were wearing. I even used to bring in my own chair when I went to people's houses. And then about, I don't know, a year and a half into that, maybe 2 years into that is when, well, not 2 years, but anyways, when I decided to convert over to telesales 100%.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So call it like what, 2022?
Yeah, just before 2022. I was doing some sales over the phone, like due to weather. Here in Seattle, we don't get a lot of snow, and when it does snow, the whole city shuts down. And I was willing to go meet people, but they weren't willing to have anybody over. And so that's when I started doing the telesales, realized that it was, can be done, and I could talk to more people, stuff like that. That's what really piqued my interest into going full time over the phone.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So obviously, I think you've been in our program for what, about a month and a half?
I think it's been exactly a month. Actually, it might have been exactly a month, like yesterday or the day before.
Okay, no kidding. So, I mean, obviously, you've had some pretty solid success early on. What were you doing prior in terms of like lead generation? How were you getting people to talk to?
I was kind of doing both. I was buying leads myself, like everybody else does, through vendors. I did have some Facebook ads that were running that were relatively successful, but they weren't successful at the level that I wanted them to be, or needed them to be, I guess I should say. And then of course I stalked Advanced Agent for ever, following all your free tutorials and all that kind of stuff before I decided just to jump in and become a member. And I'm sure I'm glad I did. It's been a great experience.
Yeah, it's been great having you, man. You're a great client to work with. You're a huge action taker too, which shows with the sales numbers that you're putting up. So awesome. So you were buying leads, generating them yourself. How much were you writing in like premium prior to?
On average, I would say probably close to 20,000 a month.
20,000 a month
premium. Yeah, some was more, some was less, but on average, it was right about that 20.
Cool.
Probably.
So hitting like 20K a month on average, and just recently, I think this was on Tuesday of this week, you were at $4,800 in a day. So far this week, it looks like you've written $6,237 in AP. And I'm looking here on lead spend. There's only $395 this week on leads so far, which is just freaking awesome. So you're kicking ass there. What do you think has been like the biggest shift for you that's allowed you to, kind of see the success like just in this past week?
Well, there's more than one thing. What I see with my eyes is after being around people that know what they're doing with lead generation, the volume is just greater, and it's a noticeable difference. You know what I mean? And so just with the volume, if you keep your activity consistent and then all of a sudden the volume is there as well, you're going to do better even if you're not meeting to. It seems like. So I mean, that's one. Another thing is that our system is very structured. My system was already very structured, but there were a lot of steps to it. And since I've been following what, you know, our group teaches and all that kind of stuff, it's more of a streamlined process. Things are more, I guess simple would be a good word. You know, we're kind of concentrating on just a few things instead of a lot of different things all at the same time.
For sure.
And I'm really digging that. It helps with your time management and being able to handle the volume that comes through.
Yeah. Just like focusing on less things, but doing each individual thing a lot better than like trying to juggle a million things and do all of them like kind of half-assed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, most of us, you know, being independent, which means that we wear all the hats. You know, I don't have staff. I don't have any of that kind of stuff. So I'm training agents, I'm selling, I'm doing admin work. And then of course I'm waiting on hold with these carriers like everybody else does. Who knows how long that's going to be throughout the day. So
yeah, we might need to hire you like a back-end assistant or something pretty soon, man. For real.
Well, we'll see.
Looking at the numbers here, right? $4,800 in a day. It looks like there were two $2,400 policies, which are, you know, those are both really sizable policies, like double the average. What does it actually look like to write $4,800 in a day? Can we kind of like break that down as far as what Tuesday actually looked like for you?
Well, I mean, Tuesday started out, I mean, honestly, even with those high numbers, it's just like every other day. I try not to ride this emotional roller coaster where if you have a good day, you're celebrating, and then you have a bad day and you're crying.
Yep.
So in all honesty, when those applications were submitted and approved and my, you know, congratulations cards went out, I was kind of just on to the next people anyway. You know, I mean, you're not just going to quit, you know, for the day. I don't remember what time it was, but it wasn't at night when I wrote those policies. I think it was about 9:30 or 10 in the morning. So a lot of people might have just taken the rest of the day off, but you know, you kind of put those in the file cabinet and just kind of move on. So the day was pretty normal. It just turned out that the numbers were really, really good. And those clients were kind of like your average client that you see come through as a lead. But with asking the right questions and stuff like that, you can really uncover what it is that they really want and need. You know, so that's kind of the best advice that I can give people is, so my managing partner, mentor, whatever you want to call these people, I've had, you know, a couple of them throughout the years. And one of them said one thing to me, and that's don't run the appointment in your head before you actually go and run the appointment. Because you kind of put blinders on. And that happens a lot. You know, just because a lead comes through as a final expense lead doesn't mean that it's going to be a final expense client.
This is very true.
You know, and a lot of times when people, when leads come through as final expense leads, and especially if people fill out like our qualification sheet, you know, it's easy to gather enough information and kind of make a lot of people, I guess, that are running appointments in their head would already make a decision on what's probably going to be best for that person or people before they even get on the phone with them. And when you've made those decisions already, it kind of blocks out all the other options. You know, you have your blinders on, you're not seeing the whole picture kind of. And so I really make a point not to do that. I really want to see, you know, how things unfold real time, I guess.
100%.
You know,
100%. Yeah, I mean, I can attest to that as well. I know my first year selling, I on a free Walmart gift card lead, I found an annuity.
Oh wow!
It's like literally on the lead, it's like send this back for a free Walmart gift card. I show up with a, you know, Walmart gift card. She's like a 75-year-old lady in, you know, North Carolina, and I start pitching her like a guaranteed issue AIG policy because she had like some health issues, and she's like, you know, I'm not really interested in that. But I do have, you know, I think I have like $250,000 in like a, you know, IRA or whatever. or no, I don't think it was an IRA. It was just like a random like mutual fund. And she's like, "Am I a financial advisor charging me all these fees?" And I'm like, "Ooh, there's an annuity right there." And so I
Jackpot.
ended up, yeah, exactly. Ended up bringing out another agent because I didn't know anything about annuities at the time. And like he ended up helping me write it. But I mean, you'll find there's millionaires that fill out final expense leads,
Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
it's insane. And there's, people on like barely making any money that'll fill out IUL leads or annuity leads. It's just, you just got to find the opportunity when it presents itself.
Yeah, I see those as well. With the campaigns that you guys build, it's pretty in the ads it describes exactly what it really is. So I haven't had anyone confused about, when I call them. No one
Yeah.
said, "What are you calling for?" They
Yeah.
all have known so far.
100%.
But you're right. A lot of times when you're buying leads from vendors or from sites that offer, there's a bunch of stuff out there. The
Mm-hmm.
people are making a general life insurance inquiry and they just call it like a final expense lead because they're in an age demographic. And so if
Exactly.
you call them up, "Hey, I'm calling about the final expense insurance information you requested," they have no
Yep.
idea what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the vocabulary is important. And that
Yeah,
happens a lot.
100%.
But it
Yeah.
hasn't happened with these ones. People know what they're requesting. And then I have to explain to them, look, what people want and what people need and can qualify for and afford are usually two different things. And in that
Yeah.
example with the people on Tuesday, when I went over information with them, about halfway through, I was like, "You guys, I don't think this is what you really need here, what you really want." And so we took a
Mm-hmm.
little bit extra time to go through the actual real numbers, do the
Mm-hmm.
math. And it turned out that, he was a 73-year-old man and she was 69 years old, and they both wanted IULs. And they actually
Mm-hmm.
qualified and were approved and
Yeah.
have the money, you know what I mean, to pay for those. And I wouldn't have known that if I just went in there thinking that it was going to be a, run-of-the-mill Mutual of Omaha living promise final
Yeah. They
expense.
probably wouldn't have
Yeah,
bought either. They would have gone to somebody else.
more than likely.
So I guess
Yeah.
like for people that are watching this that, maybe don't really know how to identify those opportunities, how did you kind of realize, hey, these people, they filled out a final expense lead, but they won an IUL? And how did you kind of steer that conversation to find that out?
Well, primarily in the beginning, it was because of their health.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't taking any prescription medications, and her husband took one cholesterol medication that he was trying to get off of. But
Right.
these people were business owners. And
Mm.
so, there's a lot of different personalities, and part of our job is trying to see, which personality they are. Some people are analytic, some people are more emotional, stuff like that.
100%.
They were really numbers driven. And they were one of the people that, we get that objection all the time. Well, if I pay, X amount per month for this long, I'm going to end up paying more than the policy is going to pay out anyway.
Yep.
And I went to my standard rebuttal, which is, well, if everything went to plan, then nobody would need insurance ever for anything.
Yeah.
But most of the time things don't go to plan, and our insurance is there for when they don't.
Yeah.
Our insurance that we sell is going to pay out eventually so people can use it to plan. But
That's
she
a
didn't even
solid
go for
rebuttal, by
that.
the way.
Yeah, she didn't even go for that. She's like, still, this just looks insane. And I was like, let's just look at these IULs. I want to take a little more time to explain how they work. It's important to me that the clients that I speak with actually understand how it works,
Yeah. And she was giving you that objection to like a whole life policy?
Yeah.
Before
Well,
you pivoted to IUL, or?
I had mentioned the IULs. I was like, even with your age, I think that you guys would probably qualify for an IUL, but
Yeah.
this is the information that you actually requested. So let me get you that information first, and then I'll describe how an IUL works. We can compare the two.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, my brain works with numbers. Everything has to add up, but obviously my vocabulary isn't great. And so I've kind of found a really easy way to explain an IUL to people in a way that most people will understand. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't use those big words and that kind of stuff. But when we went over that, did our math. She's like, that's what we want. And she goes, let me talk to my husband. And I was like, okay, here we go again. And she just put the phone on her shoulder and screamed at him in the other room. He goes, yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for. Apparently they had talked to like 4 or 5 other people that kept giving them final expense information.
Yeah.
Turns out that they thought that's what they wanted, but it's not. So everything worked out great. And they turned out to be somewhat local, so I might actually meet them in person at some point if I'm on a road trip.
Go.
And when things like that happen, not only do they feel that relief, they can cross something off their list that's been bugging them, but they were excited about it. Which is
100%.
Which is big. It feels good when people are excited and happy when you get off the phone.
How did you get in contact with them? Was this just like a random dial or a preset, or what was the way of contact?
I was dialing. Just dialed. She picked up the phone. She goes, I don't know what it was that made me pick up the phone. I had just run inside and the phone was ringing. I decided to answer it, and it was you.
Yep.
And that happens more times than not.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, especially back to the volume with the amount of dials that we can make with our system. We can make a ton of dials in a short period of time. Mm-hmm. And so it really helps with our contact rate.
1,000%. 1,000%. Have you, did you get like referrals on the kids, or, I'm sure they probably have kids.
We're talking about referrals when they get their policy documents. I told them I wanted to talk to them again. Yep. You know what I mean? So they can see, because with an IUL, there's an illustration. I want to make sure that the illustration of the documents matches what I gave them. I did plant that seed, sent out our cards like we do, that kind of stuff.
You have the automated handwritten card already set up?
I don't. I use one that I send out myself, and it's because I want it to look different.
Sure. I
received the card. I would assume that the card that I received is very similar to the ones that go out for our clients when you set that up. I didn't do it because it was more cost effective, because it actually works out to be about the same amount of money. And it's actually more time consuming to write these cards out. But I do like putting my business card in there. There is things that I put in there that generate referrals, and they seem to work fairly well.
Yeah.
With referral business, it can always work better.
100%.
but yeah, so.
Cool, man.
It's good.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a really solid deal there. And, just came in on a regular final expense lead, 2 IULs, 2,400 in AP each, 4,800 in AP. Obviously, you've been doing pretty well at the insurance game for a while. For someone that's just getting into it, that's newer to the industry, what would be like your biggest piece of advice?
My biggest piece of advice is to remain consistent with your activity. Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of people say that things don't work or they're not making any money, and it's because they're working at all different times of the day, short periods of time, long periods of time. With my agents, I make sure that we have an actual schedule, whatever it is. Most of us in this business are in this business because, me, I just don't like people telling me what to do. So I really like this business. But also, since we can make our own schedule, people that are coming out of that 9-to-5 world and then they can make their own schedule end up usually not working at all. So having a schedule when you're going to work and then actually working during those times consistently every day is really the key. And it's so simple, especially with the system that we have. I mean, you're running your appointments that you've scheduled or that's scheduled on their own, and you're dialing the phone.
Yeah.
It's not complicated at all.
It's really
very
not.
Simple.
That's the beautiful thing about this business is like you really just have to learn the game of insurance and learn sales, and like it's not complicated action. It's the same thing every day, and you just repeat it and do it at a high level, and you can make really, really good money.
Yeah.
For someone that's watching this that maybe has gotten millions of emails from me and is thinking about joining the program, what would you say to that person?
I would say that I got them too. And when we're doing things on our own, every dollar counts. and the money that goes out the door is just as important as the money that comes in the door. What happened with me is that when for some reason, my Facebook ads started to not perform the way that they were in the past. And it came to a point where it was like, if I don't invest and join these people, that's going to be the problem. That's what really happened to me. It's, and I talked with my wife about it, even though, she doesn't do insurance, but she's still there, and it's money for our household. And it was to the point where, that dumb sales thing. Well, it's like, if you can't do it, how can you afford not to? Or, however it goes.
Yeah.
Which I've had people say that to me, and it's immediately a turn off.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever
you can't
used
afford
that
it now. How can you afford
good.
not to? Whatever. But it actually came down to that. It's like, okay, I could spend this money trying to work things out on my own, and then it might work, might not. I'll probably end up doing the same thing as I was doing before, or I can jump in with both feet, make this change, believe in myself. That's a huge thing. When you're investing in a program like this, having the belief in yourself and the self-confidence that you're not just going to get the money back, but it's going to be profitable and it's going to change your business, is something that I believed. And so I wasn't afraid, I guess is what it was. I knew it was going to be a good decision. It was just, do I want to or not? And in my mind and with my business, it turned into, I have to. Something has to change. And so I'm going to change it today. And that's when I joined.
It was a numbers
after getting your
decision,
emails for a year.
Yeah. Well, thank you for not unsubscribing. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you jumping on here. For people that want to learn more about, your agency and what you're doing, where can they reach you?
My direct line is 206-309-8111. You can call or text that number. Obviously, if you're new, the training is going to be our training, so it's going to work out perfect. If you're not new, I know that the structure of this will change your business for the better. Because it did for mine, even in this short period of time. And even in my own mind, I thought I had a really structured, simple way to do things. It's even more simple, and it's very straightforward. So
100%.
And I do training in person. It's not just watching videos. Yeah. So there you go.
There you go. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you jumping on here. Guys, if you want to learn more about the program that Bret's a part of, I'll include a link down below in the description. And I will see you guys soon. Take care.
Thanks, Tim.